Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is Xeno World coming back again with another custom minifigure showcase. Today we're going to be taking a look at Rodin, King Ghidorah, Godzilla, and Mothra for the new 2019 film Godzilla King of the Monsters in theaters May 31st. I am very excited to see this. I thought the first one was good. I just wish there was more of Godzilla. From the looks of the trailer, we're going to be getting that. Plus, what we kind of wanted in the last one, proper monsters, famous monsters that we know fighting each other. Very exciting to see King Ghidorah and Godzilla fight. I'm trying to remember the last time they actually fought. I think it was probably in was it Final Wars, or was that another Ghidorah? Yeah, that was Kaiser Ghidorah. But enough of that. Before I try to linger on and mess up what I'm trying to say, all these guys were a fairly time-consuming thing to do. The putty got stickier than I anticipated. It was hard to manually apply. Painting was that was another story, since it had to make sure I got it right so as not to chip off when moving it around. Haven't got it 100% for all of them. I managed to get for a couple, but what I got was good enough to my liking. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get to the actual minifigures. Starting off, we have Godzilla. He has not changed too much since when I first got him. He is a knockoff I got off of AliExpress. The only thing I really did change was the fact that I gave him new spines to try resembling what they look like in the new movie, instead of having a much more jagged, almost like a rock look. It looks more like what he looked like in the actual original movies. Much more classical fin look. Another thing to also notice is the fact that he's not green like when you first got him. When I first got this guy, he was a dark green with black eyes and white for the mouth. But the entire mouth was painted white. Not the teeth. The teeth were just part of the mouth painted white. So one thing I wanted to do was, once I got all the spines placed in, which that was surprisingly difficult, I wanted to make sure I gave this guy a nice, I didn't want to just make him black. I wanted to give him a color similar to how it looks in the movie, some close to what they did in the actual, I don't know properly to explain it, just charcoal would be the best way to explain it. Give him this charcoal color, close to black, like a dark gray. And then for parts of the toes, and the detailing on the chest, and little scales that you see on the arms and legs, is a lighter shade of gray to make that pop, make it more noticeable. I didn't want to go with direct black because I thought it would have been too distracting. Granted, that's kind of thrown out the window when I get to Rodin and Ghidorah, since I did that for them. And another thing as well that was somewhat of a challenge was painting the inside of the eyes this yellow. Trying to use the smallest brush I've got and put a little dab on it. It was no easy task, but I managed to pull through. One thing I probably should have done ahead of time was get a different white paint, because the one I managed to get my hands on has a tendency to chip very easily. So I definitely am going to have to go back to this guy, probably for a Kong vs. Godzilla, and give him a new charcoal color. Hopefully one that won't chip away as easily. Not so sure, just might make it a stand-in. For a Kong, I think I am going to possibly just darken his fur a little, because I'm not sure much is going to change. It's still going to be a grayish brown, hopefully. I'm overall just happy with the results for this, and happy to keep this in my collection. Anyways, that's enough of him. Let's get to the next one. Next up we have Rodin. As you can tell, the only parts I actually, stupid. Fuck it, let's just... Next up we have Rodin. This was the, second, least difficult. Third most difficult for, what I did. I had to do sculpting. When I originally made this guy, I used a wire base for the wings, in which I covered him in this green epoxy putty. To which, once I let that dry, I added these wings, along with sculpting on a head, but using a wire in it so I can have the ability to pose it. I don't know fully why I decided to do that. I think I want to give the option of him standing like he did in the old monster movies, while keeping that flying, or the almost hunched look when he flies in the new one. I'm not fully sure. One thing I could have done better with this is giving him different legs. I would have, but I never got the chance. At some point down the line, I will have to switch him out to give him those legs. This is not entirely close to the actual version of the movie. The wings are too small for him. They would have to be a lot larger. And of course, the legs would have to be a little bit smaller and more chicken leg-like. Everything else I think is fine. One thing as well I decided to do is sculpt on this back piece to just give more depth to it. I try to think to myself, try to legitimize as if this were an actual like Lego piece. So I had to connect to the back of Rodin's neck to make it seem like it's a one entire piece. One thing as well, I also used a couple of droid hands, which I clipped off using for another, or for Mothra for her legs, which you'll see later on. I just had extras laying around, so I put them on to give him his claws that he has. I mean, granted, they're not exactly claws, but I think hands are a good substitute. And again, since it's wire, these wings can move around or flap. Gotta be careful as to not really chip the paint. Even with clear coat, it still chips. Anyways, yeah, I'm fairly satisfied, but Rodin wasn't really one of my favorites. He was alright. I mean, I found him cool in the in the trailers. I think I might find him cool in the movie, but not fully confident. For what I did, I think it's passable. Another thing as well, one thing I know for sure I'm just going to be leaving him as, just gave him this little base, I'm just going to leave him as a, just in this flying pose. That's all I'm going to really do with him, and I think that's fine. Anyways, that's Rodin. Time for the next one. Next up, we have King Ghidorah. The second most challenging thing, I think the most challenging was sculpting, but adding it all up, I think the next one after this is my most challenging, or I would say tedious. But this one still had its fair share of difficulties, mostly being properly sculpting the wings to make sure they are symmetrical. They're not exact, but close enough. That's not bothersome to me. I did the same thing with Rodin that I did here. long wires on the arms, and then wires for the necks. I originally was hoping that they'd be posable, but I'm pretty sure the epoxy mix that I used would just stiffen it, and I think I'd probably break the actual sculpt just trying to pose them around. So I think just leaving it like this should suffice to give the idea of the heads doing their own thing. Wings again are posable just like Rodin's. They can move around. I want to be careful as not to break the actual wire inside. Another thing that was challenging was doing the many layers of gold of this guy. I think I still need to do more layers of gold because I'm slowly seeing parts of green showing. Maybe later down the line I'll try doing a couple more coats. I wasn't fully patient and just wanted to get these guys finished as soon as possible. And one thing as well, the tails are not on, do not have wires in them. They're just static. I left it like that. And again, with the actual back piece, my same reasoning with Rodin was to make these have like it's one piece that goes all the way to the back. Have like it connects on the actual minifigure head. And remember when I said trying to use a lighter or a darker shade of a color to make it pop out? That didn't really work too well with this guy. I tried using a darker shade of gold, which you can barely notice with this gold, so I decided to just give up on that and just do normal black paint to show off the minor details. The only thing I really did was just show the actual base piece where all the necks would connect in a line. One thing I definitely was not going to do was doing the cross hatching that this guy's, or that Ghido is known for, having that very scaly diamond scale look. That would have put him pretty close to Mothra on the most difficult thing or tedious thing I've done. Overall, this one I'm a lot more happy with than Rodin. I think for what I got, it was good. Again, might go back on them later. Not fully sure. Just giving you a nice look before we reach the final figure of this showcase. You got it? Good. Next one. And finally, we have the most difficult or tedious figure I have done in this entire line. It is Mothra. She is probably my favorite, or one of my favorites, next to Godzilla. I don't know. I really just think Rodin's my least favorite. He just looks very basic. Not that interesting to me. Mothra I really like, mostly for the work I've done on the wings. Before I get to that, I may as well point out this is entirely hand sculpted by me. I just noticed on the camera a little bit of a blue-pink got on her hand, or mandible, a leg. One thing as well to keep note of is the fact that 4 of the legs were originally droid arms that I cut the connector hands for, and I used 2 of them for Rodin's wings to give him his hands or claws. One thing I would like to show you that I'm very proud of is the fact that I did all of this painting. And I know I shouldn't be talking about, oh, I did all this painting, it was such hard. I have a legit reason, due to the fact that the original paint that I did was based on the SH Monster Arts version, which looks nothing like it does in the trailer. So I had to look up new images and start over from the beginning, from square one, having to paint over these in white, and then the different layers upon layers upon layers. It was a nightmare. Just getting a better look at that face, if you can see. The face was probably the easiest thing. The body was a little bit more challenging. Getting the fur right was something else. Making sure the wings were stable. That was near impossible since they would always fall off. Since I put bendy wire, again, in all the wings to hopefully give it more posability. Not too much luck. The best I can do is just slightly move it around to help out with the actual look of it. So I couldn't fold them back if I really wanted to. While painting this, the wings fell off, I think, at least 3 times. I wasn't too thrilled about that, but I think the final result was, I don't want to say worth it, I think, yeah, I guess worth it. I love the actual sculpt I did for this. Even doing the tiny little hands, just resting above the little secondary legs. The only thing I probably would have changed was the way I had it sculpted. Because the way I have it sculpted, she's just looking down all the time. Can't really look up unless it's just holding like that. I'm just going to have her using this makeshift flight stand, just quickly thrown together. Whoops. Just to give this kind of look. Not really good example right now since it's refusing to cooperate on camera. One thing as well I noticed is that balancing this thing is difficult unless you get the wings right. I managed to luckily get the wing balance right. Making sure both wings were, or both sets of wings, kind of. Would you say both sets of wings? I'm just going to say it. Both sets of wings. To make sure it has that symmetrical weight balance. Make sure there's not too much weight on one side or else it'll topple over. Since it is a very small figure. I mean, really think about it, not too small. It should be a lot smaller in comparison to Godzilla. But again, my legitimizing for this is that Lego would definitely make it a little bit bigger to make it more playable for kids. Or if anything, they would just make a brick-built Mothra. And then just throw in the minifigure of Godzilla. I'm not sure if they would actually do brick-built versions of all these guys. I think if they made them the size of Ant-Man or something. That giant man from Civil War, I think it can work. But enough of me rambling and brainstorming. That's Mothra. I'm gonna take a break to get everything lined for set up again and get to the final, I would say verdict or just talking more about these guys. Give me a sec. Alright, so that's my minifigure showcase for the main monsters in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Did you like them? Did you not? Leave a comment down below. I like the feedback to know what I can try improving upon these guys. Or improving upon the future minifigures I make. There's nothing else really to say. I just wanted to try finding a way to have these guys kind of doing a cool pose, or having how I'm going to preferably display them as. I don't know it's much really to say. I hope to see you in the next video. This is Xeno World signing off.